Well, thanks for having us. I've been involved with Restore for about 8 years on the board. And what Restore is, it's based in Concord, and it's a home-based recovery program. So we have 2 men's homes, 1 women's home, a homeless outreach, and then we have a CARES program that's been launched as part of that all, as well as an alumni association. So the principle is that some folks who had a longstanding history in doing recovery of folks thought that we need a program that allows people the time and space to get fully healed, not just detox. Okay. And then to fully, over time, we learn about how to handle things holistic, how to live life in recovery for the long term. So the men's program has about 8 beds in it, and folks come out of off the streets, out of detox, and some of the organizations, and we have some folks here who will give their testimonies and speak to those details. And then after graduating from the recovery program, there's a period of time where they can go into transitional housing as they continue to get their feet underneath them, get encouraged, find the right ways of living life. Now, on the women's side, there's a really big focus about reuniting families where folks, unfortunately, have lost their children due to circumstances, and they've gone through cycles and generations and years of getting sober, falling back into addiction, losing their kids again, et cetera. And the big thing there is about how can we work with these moms to reunite their families and let them gain their custody of their kids long-term, and then launch them into the community. I feel pretty darn good about where we've come from. It's been a wild ride over the last 8 years, and Restore's been around since 2012. But, going through COVID, going through leadership changes, and I think we were talking about this on the way over, we're in a really good spot because we have we have a couple things I think are super cool. One is the fact that the program itself is fairly stabilized, well thought out, and well proven out in terms of what people need and how they can get plugged in. Things such as, a blackout period when they first come to the house where they have to really exist with themselves. Okay. Secondly, making sure getting employed is a big part of things. Getting in programs, getting with sponsorships, things like that. But in addition, I think the things such as our homeless outreach offers some interesting opportunities. I'll just speak to this very briefly, where guys coming off the streets, using that as an example, they're coming into a situation where they're not feeling very valued as human beings. They don't have high levels of self-esteem. They're mad, they're pissed, they're scared, but they come into the program and there's other guys there. And they've been in the program for 6 months. And they look at those guys and go, I could be like them. And the guys who've been in the program look at the guys coming into the program and they go, they were just like us. And as one resident once told me, he goes, hey, Manny, it's a beautiful thing to see what happens because this kind of dynamic of a home where people are supporting each other. So one of the first things that these guys do when they come into the program is serve in our homeless outreach. So literally, one day you're coming out of jail, you're worthless, you're mad at the world, and the next day you're actually serving somebody and being helpful to somebody. And that too is a super beautiful thing. And then the other thing is, and we were talking about this on the way over, is Restore is very personalized. Each person has unique challenges, unique backgrounds that they are kind of working through. And I think that that's one of the great things about the program is we give them the time, space to do that. Last point I'll make that I feel really good about is the fact that we have really built in this rhythm of developing folks' skills, talents, and our leadership, where people are, and you'll meet a couple of these folks today, stepping from a resident to a graduate to a program manager. and then being a resource to their community and other programs, and they'll share on that. So in the past, one of our big issues was how do we manage succession? And we've gone through many cycles of succession now that I feel so great about, because the people, we're launching people into long-term careers, either in recovery programs or just in the private sector. But also we're developing leaders in our program from the graduates. And it's just been working very effectively since then.
So it sounds like you guys are a home-based program. You take a real holistic, long-term approach to helping people get back on their feet. So I don't know if you want to go just review a little bit of what this, it's faith-based. You get an opportunity to introduce to long-term communities that they can connect with. And I noticed everybody there at your graduation was connected to folks that care about them outside the program. So they had their own network of friends that were supporting them and driving them, which is super important for recovery, to make sure not only in the program, but post-program that they're taken care of and they're connected to folks. So that was truly amazing. And I love your vision statement here.
Yeah. And one thing about the faith-based piece, honestly, you get 8 adults living in a room, all with their own issues, a house, not a room, a house. It's a miracle that all this works together. So it really, we do feel kind of the Spirit of God working in the midst of what we're doing with these folks. And one last thing I'll say, that in terms of community, we have a variety of partnerships with churches in the area, and that's growing. But also we have an alumni association that has been launched. And that's another important thing, because when people leave the program, you're still connected to the community to provide support for each other, as well as new residents in the program. And I think that's a super important factor of that.
Yeah, I think we have a video here real quick about, let's see if we can just run it for a few minutes here. I will.
Sounds good.
The Bay Area has a huge problem with homelessness, with addiction. We are living in the epicenter of a community that's addicted, that's poor, and that doesn't know a way out, doesn't feel they have a way out.
There's multiple reasons why people end up on the streets, and why people become addicted, from family of origin issues or just mental health issues.
Incarcerated, coming out of prison, abusive situations, families that are split, basically lives that have been disrupted.
Even though they've been addicted to whatever their substance was, I think all of us have a responsibility to look at the homeless and say, what's my part in alleviating that suffering?
With Trip Medi-Cal coming into place in Contra Costa County, it separated time with helping a client into a shorter time where a person doesn't have the ability to get sober and really practice these principles and learn how to apply them to life.
So we started by getting to know some of the churches in the area that had a homeless feeding ministry that they had been doing for some time. They had been building relationships with people, and those relationships had deepened to the point where their folks were ready to get recovery, and they didn't know where to send them.
Since our resources are so limited, we have to be very focused. We want to focus on things that are successful, where we see that God is really moving and doing something, and we want to jump in and join in with something like that. And that's Restore.
It was God's timing and God's plan. We opened up our first house here in Concord, and we've been in that same house since 2012. And it's still running. That's our men's recovery house, and it's been going strong. We've increased to 2 other houses, one for men in aftercare. So after they finish with the recovery program, they can go to this other house and have the freedom to get jobs, full-time jobs, and be out in the community more. And then for our women, it's for women that have children and they're working on reunification. And it's also an aftercare house where they get full-time jobs, learn how to manage their lives under a safe umbrella.
At Restore, we're allowed to really meet that client where they're at and treat them as an individual. And in any situation, when someone's coming into something that is new, especially when you're newly sober or newly out of jail, it's scary. And when they come in, our clients immediately feel love. They go from being a client to a resident. They come in the door as a number. And once they're inside, they become a person. And that makes a huge difference. When you can start walking alongside someone at the beginning of their journey, it changes the trajectory of that journey, changes where they land.
This isn't,
So I know this video goes on. So if you want to go and check out the video, it's amazing to watch the whole video itself. But if you get a chance to go out to the Restore program website, it was pretty incredible. So tell us a little bit about the Restore programs and all the elements that you guys have. I think you've touched on a couple of these. I didn't know if you wanted to kind of, sounds like the Men's Addiction Recovery House has been the longest standing resource and program.
Yes, it's been the longest one, but we firmly quickly realized that women, there's a very big need for women who particularly have been separated from their children to have a place that they can kind of reunify those families and heal those relationships in those families. More Than a Meal launched at a perfect time, COVID. So and now we're serving like 8,000 meals annually. Martinez, Concord area, homeless encampments, things of that nature. That's pretty much a drive-by on that.
Yeah, no, the transitional home, I think, was most unusual. This is the place where they've come through recovery, they're just getting back on their feet, and you give them time to kind of structure their life and kind of put together a plan for how they're going to move forward. And you give them space and time to do that. That was pretty amazing. A lot of folks, once you're done with recovery, they send you out, and you guys have a transitional thing.
Yeah, and Jacob can speak to, that the importance of having that place to go for a period of time until you're ready to kind of launch out on your own. And that's good.
I thought that was pretty amazing to hear some of the stories that were being shared about that transitional home being super important for people rebuilding their lives and getting new careers started. It was very cool. Tell us a little bit about the statistics, the numbers, and the people you're involved in, the different ways you're involved in the community.
Well, right now we have 24 total beds available to us. And really, when we're looking ahead, we're thinking about how can we grow our capacity, because we believe there's a need and then we believe the program is effective. And that's a key thing. As I mentioned, 8,000 meals distributed in 2024. Jacob is managing what we'll call our CARES program, and he can go into that, where we're partnering with churches to give back, and folks who may be elderly, folks who need a helping hand, building something, cleaning up their yard, that sort of thing. It's another way for the guys to learn job skills, as well as provide a mechanism to give back to the community. And then mentioned the launching of the alumni community, as well as a growing volunteer support base. So we have folks coming in who are doing Bible devotionals, job training, things like that. And I think that there's a lot of room for opportunity to do that more. So when I look ahead from where we're at today, I think we have a fantastic foundation. So now the question is, how can we scale that, both in terms of volunteers, residents we serve, and program elements in terms of job training, things like that.
I think one of the stories I loved most when you guys were sharing was one of the moms learning new communication skills. Hadn't always had parenting modeled in a positive way when she was younger, but as she got into the house, she had a house mom that was just mentoring her and teaching her new skills, new communication, and ways to handle a little bit of the stress in different ways than what she had done in the past. I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that is Restore's secret sauce, is the fact that this home-based structure has a built-in mentoring component. And it's not just professionals mentoring the resident, it's the residents mentoring each other as they're walking through life.
That's cool. So for next year, what are some of the dreams? What are some of the things you guys are thinking about in 2025? What are a couple of things that you're thinking about doing to be more impactful and to be a part of the community itself?
Well, in my view, as a board member, the number one thing is how can we grow capacity and scale on what we have now, which is fairly stable, which it hasn't always been, coming through COVID and going through a lot of various things. But now we're at a point actually where we think, how can we grow capacity? How can we grow our partnerships, both of local organizations? We partner with Loaves and Fishes over in the Concord area to provide the meals, for instance. Just through this organization connected with Convoy of Hope. How can we partner with Convoy of Hope? Because they have supplies of goods that we can actually use for some of our outreaches. How can we partner with you guys on figuring out how can we develop better job skills, career training, things like that? How can we partner with you guys? Another example is, or others, and how can we help the homeless, not only in giving them a meal, because it's more than a meal. We give them a meal and we give them love and we actually care about them. We're building relationships. But how can we connect them with the right resources when they're ready to take the step, that next step in their life to maybe move beyond what their current circumstances are? So really, capacity, expanding partnerships, and connection, that's where I want to head this year.
That's going to be great. So our DAOs are definitely aligned with all the things that you're doing.
Mhm.
Hopefully we can stay in a relationship with you guys and share whatever we're gaining. But as we start to ask questions, we've got another resource where we can learn from you guys as well.
Yep.